Hey, 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 good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Silhouette of a Queen. My name is Tiffany Devon, and I am a certified life coach and wardrobe stylist, and I style leaders and influencers in fearless fashions. And tonight, I'm so excited for the segment that I am putting on today because I believe that it is going to be so life-changing and so enriching for my queens that are watching today, especially for my single ladies and my married ladies. But before we get into all of that tonight, I just want to welcome you all in. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Drop some comments in the comments section because I am going to be reading those as we're talking tonight. And also feel free to ask any questions that you may have. Okay. So for those of you that are new to the Silhouette of a Queen platform, I created the Silhouette of a Queen platform last year, and it's for a powerful and resilient woman who is yet to be seen, felt, or heard. And I created this with you in mind, with the intention of giving voice to women who have felt like they've been overlooked, who felt like they didn't have a voice, and letting you know that there is a place for you in God's heart, that you are not overlooked, you are not overvalued, you are actually just hidden just for a season. And so it is through this segment and through this platform that I hope to continue to bring content that will not only speak to your life, but will cause you to just really take a second look at yourself in the mirror to really see who you really are in God. So when you think of a silhouette, you think of an image that is still yet becoming. And as women and as queens, we are always still becoming. You know, as the Bible says, we go from glory to glory, or there's levels to this, there's levels to this. You know what I mean? There's levels to being a woman. And so never second guess where you are, never feel doubtful for where you are, because there's always another level with your name on it. And so I just want to thank you so much for even just coming in tonight. Again, just thank you for the crown, of the crown. When we think of a crown, what a queen wears, a crown embodies that something of maturity and the responsibility of the weight of being a woman, of leading in the way that God would have us to lead. And so there is a greater call when we say that we are queens and we're going to put this crown on. That means that we come with a unique personality, our gifts, our calling, all of that is embodied into becoming a queen. So just thank you again so much for watching. And I want to introduce the ladies that I have on here tonight. The tonight segment is called Before You Do and After You Do. And so I wanted to talk about this specifically because I was really touched by the fact that I see so many people in today's culture. The divorce is on the rise, especially in this pandemic. A lot of people are on their second marriages, third marriages. And I was wondering, like, what is happening? What's going on? And I was reminded of a quote that Dr. Miles Monroe said when he was living. And he often too would coach married couples. And he would tell them, you do not have a married problem, you have a singleness problem, because these are the things that you should have worked out when you were single. And I thought, whoa. Now, coming from a woman myself who was once married, I can attest to that. When I got married in 2012, I was a woman who had not completed the maturation process that God had me on. So what that looks like is when you don't know your purpose, when you don't know your identity, which is what I talked about in Owning Your Crown, a previous Silhouette of a Queen segment. And I didn't know how to master my emotions. I wasn't the best communicator. And so when you don't go through this process that God would have you to go through when you're in your singleness, and you take that into a marriage, your marriage is going to suffer. And so a lot of times what happens is women will spend, in couples actually, can spend the first 5 to 7 years, if not more, trying to sift through the stuff that should have actually been taken care of when you were single. And so for me, myself, when I got married, the first 6 months, I'm looking at this thing like, whoa, what's happening? What am I seeing? What's going on with him? And so I have to take responsibility and ownership for what I played in that, and saying to myself that I was broken. I should have never been in that marriage in the first place. So we show our scars so you can heal. That's the purpose of this show tonight. So I wanted to bring on these ladies because between all of the ladies that are sitting here on this panel, you're looking at least over 40 years of experience in marriage, from 15 years of marriage up to 30 years of marriage, right? So they've been through some things, they've seen some things, but we all know if you're going to do it the right way, you have to put God in the center of it. And if you don't have God in the center of your marriage, it's not going to work. So I want to introduce the ladies on here on here tonight. With these two ladies actually are no strangers to the Silhouette of a Queen platform. They have actually been here before. They actually were my first two panelists on the first Silhouette of a Queen. So they are already alumni as far as I'm concerned. Yes, ladies, can you go ahead and unmute yourself? I'm trying to, it's not letting me unmute. Maybe you can do it. Unmute. Okay, you got it? Okay, go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, so Laval Ezell is a certified life coach, sisterhood strategist, international motivational speaker, and blogger. Her fire for healthy friendships amongst women birthed a movement called Striving in Sisterhood, where she conducts workshops, conferences, and special events for girls and women in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and surrounding states. She created the Sisters Sit and Chat experience for self-discovery, relationship strategies, maturity in the levels of friendship, accountability, and purpose. She teaches and walks the lifestyle of authentic sisterhood and believes that self-worth inspires sisterhood. Laval shares her wealth of knowledge and expertise to several platforms weekly. She has been married for 20 years and go ahead and give a little shout out wave, Laval.
Wow, that was an awesome introduction. Thank you, Tiffany.
You're welcome. And Jo Patterson, again, she's no stranger to the Silhouette of a Queen segment. She is self-employed as a contracted enrichment program director through Big Thought, Thriving Minds After School, the Dallas City of Learning and Young Women's Leadership Prep and Academy, and her own enrichment programs, Epic Domain LLC for boys and girls, and Sarah's Girls Incorporated, 501c3. Through her innovative and exciting teaching, praise and worship, hands-on activities, engaging fellowship, and life application, Jo has successfully launched a girls ministry conference enrichment program that will inspire exuberant life, bring healing and deliverance, and equip and empower young girls to be the best, most authentic versions of themselves, the girl God created them to be. To date, she has held 7 hugely successful conferences and spoken locally at charter schools and held enrichment programs nationally. And you can catch her on her new podcast called Speak on That with Jo Patterson. She has been married for 30 years and she does accountability sessions with couples. Go ahead and give it up for Jo.
Yes.
Well, you ever look around the room and go like, who is she talking about? Thank you.
And you're welcome. And last but not least, we have Veronica Neal. She is new to the Silhouette of a Queen panelist, but she is a licensed hairstylist for over 20 years. She now spends her time coaching women on how to overcome obstacles so they can live on purpose. She has a podcast called Conversations with My Friend, along with host Candace Martin, where they talk about real life situations and how to move past them. She has been married for over 15 years and is a mother of 3 sons. And a set of those are twins. So welcome everybody to welcome them to the Silhouette of a Queen segment. I am so excited to have them on here tonight because these ladies are just powerful and wise in their own right. I love talking to them, and so I know that you are going to gain not only just nuggets from them tonight, but I know you're going to be chewing on some steak bites. Steak bites are things you got to chew on for a little bit, you know. You know, it's kind of, you know, got that grind. You know, we're going to drop y'all some steak bites tonight. So, okay. So, ladies, I mentioned earlier at the top of the segment, the 6 attributes that I talked about previously on Silhouette of a Queen on owning your crown was identity, why that's important to know who you are, who has God called you to be, how you are to move in that identity. I talked about self-control, discipline, and as far as managing your emotions, managing your sexuality. Are you a woman that leads with your sexuality? Those types of things, because if you don't master those things as a single woman, just because you get a ring placed on your finger does that not mean that all that's going to turn off if you didn't know how to manage it in your singleness. And I talk about communication. I know when I first got married, everyone said communication is the key. Communication is the key. And everybody, well, I'm communicating, he's communicating, but we're still bumping heads. So we have to go deeper. Like, what does that mean? Because if I'm broken and I'm communicating, I'm only going to hear you through the lens of my trauma, through the lens of my brokenness. And he could say, you know what, babe, I didn't like the French fries that you made, and you heard, he didn't like me. I'm just so crushed. He's like, no, I said the French fries, not you. So we have to be able to walk through those things, heal those things, allowing God to lead you. Because if you don't allow God to lead you as a single woman, how is a husband going to lead you? Are you going to be like, you don't tell me what to do? I'm not listening to that. Blah, blah, blah. All of these different things. So that's important. Last but not least is identifying your generational traumas and things like that, and even your own personal traumas and disappointments, because we've all gone through life. And so if you don't identify what those things are, you will drag all of that into a marriage and it's undone. So we're going to talk about that tonight. So Joe, I'm going to ask you, what attributes do you feel is important for a woman to work on before she commits to a relationship or marriage? Okay, we can't, hold on, we can't hear you. Let me see. Veronica, can we hear you?
Can you?
Yep, I hear you. Okay. Okay, Laval, we can hear you, right?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. Okay. So we're just gonna wait on Joe to get her sound.
I can go ahead and go while we're waiting on her.
Okay.
Joe, can we hear you yet? Okay. Well, I'll start out saying that one of the most important attributes that I would say is having a heart to learn, having a heart to accept, any type of encouragement, even correction, because in everything that we do, and I'm saying as far as even God, our relationship with God, he's going to always have to groom us and tell us how to move and not move, speak, not speak, those kind of things. And as a single woman, if you start practicing that as a single woman with being obedient to God, that's going to affect all of your relationships, whether it's your relationships with your parents, your siblings, in school, on the job. So you have to start practicing that attribute early. So making a decision that you want to move forward and maturing is, I feel like, is one of the big elements, because if you don't make that decision up front, then you're not going to be where God can mold you and allow you to grow with another person, because you're always going to be resistant. Like, why you talking to me like that? Why, you're going to always have something to say, even just being quiet and listening for a moment. If you don't practice that ahead of time, making a decision that, okay, I don't have to always get the last word in. Practicing that before you get in a relationship is good, to practice it, and it doesn't mean that you're not being heard. Sometimes God just needs you to be quiet just so that you can listen and hear, and you might get a different perspective if you stop talking. So just making a decision that you want to mature. Ladies, can we hear you yet, Joe?
Can you hear me?
We can
Yes,
hear
ma'am.
you. Okay.
Hallelujah. I'm like, well, I talked at the introduction that devil. All right. So I was saying, he trying to shut me up out the gate. Look, I was saying honesty and a lot of what Lavelle shared as well. I had a unique start to, I guess, my dating into my marriage. And of course, I was a kid. So when you say 30 years, look, literally, I was 14, 15 years old when we started dating, but our marriage came at 22 for me. I got married at 22. And so, but being honest with my issues, and that, like you said, if you don't get it right, because we weren't in Christ necessarily, at the start of this relationship. But if you don't own your stuff, and I have to say it like that, when you don't own your stuff, and when you're not authentically, honest about your hurt and your pain, it finds a way of coming out anyway. And having someone that's willing to hear your heart makes all the difference, because I think a lot of times that's how things end bad, because both parties have to be willing to participate in the healing process. So if he's not vested, or if you're not vested, it's going to go all kinds of wrong. But if you have someone, and God did bless me with a wonderful, he's my best friend. And I can talk to him about anything. And that started in friendship. And in our marriage, even like Lavelle shared, matured. So over the years, we've just, I can't hide anything from him. He knows me better than some of my family members. So it's like, girl, you tripping. What? And just to be honest with that, and it hurts. It hurts when you say to shut up and not have to have the last word. It really hurts. It hurts. It bruises our ego. But if I want to stay married because I really love this guy,
yeah,
and I need to put my ego to the side, and I can't be right about everything as much as I believe I am. But I maybe I'm wrong about a few things, but
as women, we always right.
Well, I always say, because people say happy wife, happy life, and I would say happy spouse, happy house. So that's both ways. When we keep each other happy, then it makes for, if he's being satisfied, I'm being satisfied, and we're working on each other's best, on each other's best interest, it's win-win. It's win-win. It's when the selfishness creeps in. And then even if you're still healing, in some areas, get that resolved, or it's going to cause a lot of that selfishness. It's going to be a lot of me and a lot of pity and a lot of attention focused on only one party in the relationship. And that's not fair.
There's a quote that I heard, and it's so wrong, but it stuck in my mind when I heard it. It was in Brandy's movie Cinderella, and the stepmother wanted her daughters to be married so bad, and she told them, hide your flaws until after the wedding. and just what Joe was saying, you cannot hide your flaws. The person that God has designed for you will accept where you are and be willing to grow with you. You have to give them, everybody comes with baggage. We all come with baggage. Some have more bags than others, but give them the opportunity to say, you know what, I see all your baggage, but I want to help carry your bags.
Yeah. Veronica, let's say you 20 years plus.
15 years.
Oh, 15
years. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm at 20.
She's coming.
15. So I would say courage. I believe to have, having the courage to speak your truth, to speak what it is that you want, and to speak what it is that you need. And I think I have been very good at that, even as a child, just telling people, telling my mama, my brother, my daddy, whoever, listen, this is who I am. This is what I'm not going to do. This is what I'm going to do. Right. And this is what I need, and I think I've always been good at that. And I believe, I know you mentioned Joe's something about friendship, and I can say that I married my best friend at the time, and I always said that, you know, as I was just praying to God for a husband, I said, God, I told God I wanted to marry my friend, and that's who I married. But I came. This is all me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so this is what you get. I'm not going to be a surprise 15 years down the line. Right. And so I'm the same person. I have grown a lot, but I still speak my truth. And it's been times that I felt like, okay, well, I'm not going to say that, and I'm not going to say this, whatever. But I realized that that's not good for me. It's not good. Now, of course, what y'all talked about learning, I had to learn how to be quiet. I had to learn that I didn't have to have the last word. I had to learn all that, but still that's different from speaking what you need and what you want. And so the times that I've tried to kind of be quiet on that, it's just a big mess. So I just got to keep speaking my truth. And that courage is very, very important. So that's what I was saying.
Yes. I agree with all of that. I like the way you differentiated between, you know, being courageous and speaking your truth, and you know, that submission part, and it's not a dirty word. Everybody just hold on, don't nobody faint. Okay, I said the F word. I lost half the congregation, Tiffany.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, it's not that that's a bad thing, but learning that balance, there's a difference, because, you know, God didn't call us to that. I don't know, you know, somebody messed that memo up, but that's not what the Father meant. It's, you know, under the same mission, you know, we're submitting to the mission, and you got to have a husband with vision. And so, you know, a lot of times that takes us communicating too, and a good man will ask, you know, a good woman, you know, babe, what you think about that? And just, that's my take on that.
Yeah, you know, this is, it really changed my life, the way that I look at submission. So like you just said, sub means to get under, mission means call. And every day we have an issue with saying, I'm going to submit to a man, but we submit to our employers, right? Okay, aren't you submitting to the call and the vision that employer has when you go in every day and you consciously make a choice to clock in to get a check? Aren't you submitting to the call and the vision? Well, it's the same thing. You would just apply the same energy that you would over there and apply it over there to a marriage, to a partnership. Because that's really what it is when you're working, when you're going to work every day. It's a partnership. And so for you, it's very important as a lady, as a queen, to understand and know that that's where identity comes into play, right? Because if you don't know who you are and you're getting married to someone who's not even complimenting the gifts of what you carry, who you are, what is his mission, what is his call, so that you can say, you know what, this is something that I can align myself with. I can get up under you and walk together. But if you do not know that, and you're just getting married for the sake of, because I'm getting older, or he makes good money, or I'm lonely, or whatever the case may be, don't be surprised where 6 months, like I did, you're hitting brick walls because you're like, you didn't answer all of these questions. So this is what I was, you know, sharing, like, okay, with our viewers that are watching, this is what we want to impart to you today, is to help you to understand, like, these are the things that you should be looking for. These are the questions that you should be asking of yourself, and going on this inner discovery with yourself and with God, so that way when someone comes along, you already know who you are. You already know. You know, this is what I bring to the table. This is what I have to offer. And if you get me, you're getting an investment. Hello, somebody.
I think she was preaching to the choir on that one. You felt that too.
But this is what I did not know before. I didn't know this before. And so when I didn't know this, I paid a price. You know, so I don't want anybody else.
you were willing to seek out, you were willing to, some people never make that exploration. Some people never, have the courage, as Veronica said, to even move, move the needle a little further, because it's got to be everybody else. There's something wrong with everyone else but me. And I've seen a lot of women make that mistake, and you look up, and in your, I guess just that stubbornness, and that unyielding, not being willing to hear, somebody else's vantage point. Get around good. You guys are life coaches. Get around some sound women who can see the things that you can't see. And I tell you, that is a godsend when you have a sister friend that will say, baby, I know you don't want to hear this, but we need to talk. And then, be humble enough to accept it and change for the better.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed, and in my own life, is that we usually choose a mate based off of where we are in our life. And if we are broken, we select a broken person.
True.
When you're whole and you've done the work that we're speaking about, challenging yourself to hold these positive attributes that you say you want in a man, if you work on them yourself and the progression that you're supposed to be making as you're working on yourself, when you become whole, you're not going to let someone come in and destroy that, because it takes too much work.
So true.
So what we're talking about tonight is you deciding that you want to be a whole woman so that you can allow God to bring a whole man into your life. Because you don't want, when I was single, I would say, how you see all these guys, and this guy has this attribute, and this guy has this attribute, and you're like, why can't I get all the little pieces and put one whole man together?
Then you call it build a man instead of build a bear, build a man.
Yeah.
Then you get Frankenstein, and that's the problem.
Right. He's real scary.
You get a tin man without a heart, or a scarecrow without a brain. So look, let God send that man.
Yes. Your job is to become that whole woman, and that man that comes looking for you, he's gonna have a phenomenal woman.
Yes, so it is definitely 100. When back in the day, everybody say 50-50. You bring your 50, I bring. It was never that, and that was a light bulb for me too, because times have changed, and women are doing and achieving more than ever, and some men not putting a stranglehold on, the whole issue of men making less money than women. I'm not saying all of that, but even seeing that women are not just, oh, I need a man with some money to take care of me. Yeah. Or that thing that was the mindset, because our mothers taught us, find a good man, find a marry, you were to marry up, and
it doesn't look that way anymore either.
It doesn't look that way anymore. It's not so even-handed, and now I think it's the better thing, the healthier thing is for that woman to know who she is and find herself before entering that marriage. When I say find herself, those things that God-given ability and creativity and everything that God put in you, and like you were sharing before, healing the wounds and all of that stuff. And it's stuff for you, the husband and wife, to work on together. But for the most part, we shouldn't enter so wounded, that we have to start from ground zero or expect him to fix all of those broken places. That's not his job to make you happy. It just never, it's not.
So because the thing that I did discover is that I did a lot of this work that we're talking about, but when you get married, when you come to a place that God is like, okay, you're ready so much, but because there's still work to do. Yes, you can only do so much work as a single woman, because God is going to bring out a whole nother woman. When you join with that man, you're going to see a side of yourself that you didn't even know.
Right. There's only so much you can do on your own.
Only so much you can do. It's hands-on learning.
Yeah. Which brings me to my next question, Veronica. So what do you feel are some of the issues or areas that married couples have difficulty working through?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm absolutely going to say that C word, communication. I've learned, me and my husband, we grew up differently. We probably lived about 45 minutes from each other. We probably grew up 45 minutes from each other.
Wow.
Me not meeting him till about 16, 17 years ago, but it still was so much different. And so the way he communicated and the way I communicated was totally different. It's so funny because I even, I watch him with the boys and his brothers and different people, and I hear him on the phone. I'm like, but you left out, you're supposed to be meeting somebody somewhere, but you left out a lot of information. Like, I would have been on the phone like, now you want me to be where at what time? And, I need all the details. And then I'm like, that is going to be a big mix up. But so we have learned over time, how to communicate, and he know how to specifically communicate with his wife if he want anything to get done or if he want to move farther, period. But I would say communication. And then, I felt like I was a pretty good communicator, but when I get with somebody that was so different from me, and then I could talk to one of my girlfriends and we just understand each other. I could just say a few things and we understand, but he'll be like, huh, what you say? I said, you don't understand. So having to learn how to communicate, even from his way of perceiving things. And so that whole communication thing, it was big 15 years ago, and it's still big right now, because as you grow, like, I'm 41 and he's 44, but then I was 25 and he was like 29 or something. So, we in a different frame of mind. And now I got, okay, look, I'm finna go do this. The kids halfway grown. So we got to communicate on look, what y'all gonna get to eat. You figure that out, because I'm gone, so communication is a big deal, I would say. Miss Jo, what about you?
Well, but Tiffany, give me a question again. I'm so busy laughing because I so identify with that, and everybody's we always talk about love languages. What moves one person may not move another. It may be touch and affection. It may be gifts and words of affirmation. It may, different things speak to different people, and you do have to learn how to communicate with that man. It's not every man, it's your man. And he's not your girlfriend. So things that look, sometimes we just giggle and it's understood. I'm talking to him and he turns around and he looks at me, he says, so what's the takeaway? It's like, it just wants to cut to the chase, and I'm painting the flowers and I've got, I've got gold leaf and I'm adding pillows, and he's like, so how much is it going to cost? And it's like, but did you hear what I said? I want, yeah. But where are you? What side of the room do you want me to put it on? You just missed it. This is the creativity, but I love it because opposites really do attract.
Right.
I'm the yin to his yang, and he's the numbers guy. He's very analytical, he's very logical, and I am the creative. He calls me a squiggly all the time because I talk in colors. I'm sure when I talk, there's probably little sparkly things that fly. And he's just looking at me, and I think he really listens. It's like your kids. They listen for key words like food, okay, money, shopping, PS4, what? Because they listen for key words and then they move. Other than that, it's just oh, okay, all right, and then he'll just stop everything. So is that next week? And I was like, I just told you Saturday. So I'm learning to and when it's something that's really, really important, and to give him my undivided attention as well, because there's times when I'm painting colors and he really needs me to focus in on the gist of the matter, and not talk about what we can do in the summer and how pretty that's going to look over in the corner. So it's a give and take, but it's hearing each other, and it's a dance. marriage is a dance. It's a dance, and you don't always start out, ballroom dancers, and you're on your toe and your back is the correct. You lean into each other, and then all of a sudden, you look up and you're in this groove. And I call it like when you get a car that really, it's like the car, y'all just become one. You slide into it. And you already know it's yeah. That's why they call it a whip,
Right.
When you become in tune with one another. I'm having so much fun with y'all. I could be explaining it so much better, but I'm doing that thing. Y'all get me. So it's like me and Veronica, that's man. She's just giggling. I'm giggling at her. She's giggling.
I'm laughing hard.
Y'all are the best. Y'all are the best. But that's it. That's my 2 cents.
Lavelle?
Okay, what was the original question?
Okay, so the question is, what are some of the issues and areas that you feel that married couples have a difficulty working through?
Okay, so they hit a really good one, but I'm going to also say, I'm going to add forgiveness. One of the things that my husband taught me, because our story is we knew each other from afar for about 2 years, but when we started dating, we were married in 6 months.
Ooh.
So we had no time to get to know each other per se. So we were married in 6 months, living, now as a married couple, and I really didn't know what to expect. I don't recommend that, but this was my story. And God did it.
Yes.
But you always anticipate the first fight. Like, when is it going to happen? How is it going to happen? And we never had, to this day, we've never had a fight. We've had, I understand it this way, you understand it that way, but never like a fight. But the one thing that my husband was really good at that I did not realize was real, was like that, I don't know, could exist, was forgiveness. So we had our little disagreement, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's upset with me, or, how long are we not going to be talking? And, I just didn't know what to anticipate. And so I was kind of preparing myself for this cold shoulder. And after the disagreement, he came in the room and he was like, acting like, oh, okay, let's go and go to the park or whatever. And I was like, you're not mad? And he was like, no, I've already gotten over that. I've already gotten through it. It was like we had a discussion and he did not hold it against me. And to this day, this is almost 20 years later, he has that attribute of forgiveness. Like and it has taught me more about forgiveness and just life itself because he exposed me to that attribute. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. And I promise you, to this day, he forgives like that. Am I telling the story, Joe? Joe knows my husband.
You're not.
And so even when you think about God placing you with a mate, that person is going to have an attribute that's going to teach you something.
Oh, yes.
That's going to wow you because it's from God. It's one of God's attributes. And so you definitely have to look for, if you're waiting on God, God is going to have you with a mate that's going to complement things, maybe where you were hurting, he's going to send you a mate that can provide that because that's going to be a part of your healing. But I will say that forgiveness, learning how, and I didn't have an issue with forgiving, but to just see it in real life was amazing to me. It strengthened my faith. Yeah. Like forgiveness is real,
Yeah.
Real. Not just from God, but a human being.
Yes.
Yeah. So beautiful. Just being able to forgive, like even both parties have to be willing to forgive, work through your differences. You can agree to disagree and still move forward. That is real, ladies. And I know you guys can, agree to that. If God is in the midst of it, you can forgive.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's just one of the things that I can say that is necessary in marriage is forgiveness.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Joe, what do you feel is the biggest misconception people have about marriage before they enter in?
The biggest, I can't kind of tag it to everybody. What it says all encompassing. I don't think everybody has that misconception, but the fairy tale of it,
Yeah.
we're, especially now, because we're in a different generation. I'm trying to drill things in my daughter now. I have a 17-year-old daughter, Valerie, and I have 2 adult sons. And so it's like there's things I want her to be independent enough to do, but she's so independent that it's like her dad's out there trying to help her take a bike out the back of the van, and she's lifting it. And I'm looking at her like, girl, let the man lift the bike. This is a big bike. And then she's like, but I got it. It's not heavy. I said, it's not that you got it. Your daddy's right here, And so I'm wanting her to, it's like, it's not for you to always do the heavy lifting, even though you can, let the man, and
I had an issue with that. And when you're a single woman, and I'm saying, your daughter is a girl, a young woman, but even in being a single woman for a really long time, you get this independent spirit, like you're like, I can do it. And we can, not to say that we can't, but allowing that man to love you in those ways of opening up doors. Because my husband looked at me like I was crazy, like, you're not gonna let me open the door? And so it takes work to, if you do it so long, it takes work to undo it.
And I believe that's hard for a lot of women now. I believe that's really hard when you've had to be the man and the woman. You're not necessarily the man, but when you take on that responsibility and it's you, there's nobody else to take the trash out. It's going to sit in there and you're going to have fruit flies if you don't get up and move it outside. Get it. But when I say the fairy tale of it, that everything we see on the internet, as beautiful as our Black excellence and our, Black families and these wonderful pictures of men and women and what marriage, and you're standing on the volcano and there's black sand and, and these built bodies and everything. That's great. And that's true. Again, not for all encompassing, but there has to be some reality in the marriage. We're not always swinging from the chandeliers. You got to come down from there, and we're gonna have to do this budget because we got to make sure we got enough money at the end of the month. So it can be wonderful and it can be romantic, and it's sipping coffee together, snuggled under a blanket. That's cool. But it is also out there doing yard work and going up to the school to make sure that we're graduating on time. Don't don't that whole image. I'm really hurting for couples or for young people that have this romanticism of what a marriage is and don't understand the work.
There's a lot of giving. There's a lot of giving, and we have generations that's what about me?
Yeah. Yes.
And in marriage, you have to give.
Oh, can I talk about the who is it? The sweetie with the Birkin bags and the sis? If he ain't buying you a Birkin bag, which is a house in some communities.
Yes.
Then he ain't a real man. You better sit down. That's why y'all not together now. But that's I'm a shout. So anyway, but you know what I'm saying? It's the things. It's the lifestyle that we are portraying, and it's not altogether true.
And that's one of those things too. And I know you women can attest to this. A strong, wise man will sometimes have to tell you no.
Yes.
Because sometimes it's not the right time, it's not appropriate, and he will have to tell you no. So if you have a man that everything is yes, 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 that's not realistic.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to ask her, did you have anything to add to what you feel is the biggest misconception about marriage?
Well, I would say what Joe said, of course, but also I would say a lot of women, a lot of single women that I know, and I have several single friends and clients, I believe that they feel like that spouse or that significant other will complete them. Like I know people that won't buy a house, and they waiting to buy a house. I know people that's waiting to do a lot of different things and move forward in a big way in their life because they are waiting for the man for completion.
Right.
You know, even when I got married, my husband at 25, I met him, I think I was about 23 when I met him. I remember being so happy and being so full of joy before I met him.
Yeah.
I was so content and happy with me before I met him. And I believe he was in the same place. He was happy and building his relationship with God and just happy. And so, when we connected, I feel like we was already whole in God in that way. Of course, we still had things that we had to work through and different things like that. But I would say a big misconception is that your significant other will complete you, or like the thing that you've been longing for and all that, that's going to seal the deal. And it's not. It's not true. It's not true. I believe you should be whole before, you should be content with you. You should know yourself. You should know who you are. And I believe the perfect scenario is, you doing what the Lord called you to do, and y'all meet each other while both of y'all doing what the Lord called you to do. I think that's like the perfect, just not bother, yeah.
I agree. I tell my sons and my daughter that I'm like, let either him or her, let them find you in the doing.
Yes.
Live your life. If you want to travel. If you want, because tomorrow we see with this pandemic, who knew? There are people that thought that they were going to live to see not only 2020, but this year. And Donna, you imagine how many things that we would put on hold, believing that this magical event is going to happen. This unicorn is going to come from the sky and spew rainbows all over us and make our lives complete. When God is giving you today, that's all you got to bet on. You got the moment that you're in, and the blessings that God have put in front of you in the now. And yes, we hope for the future. We hope for the future, but you don't stop living. You don't stop growing. You don't stop learning. You don't stop doing things, waiting on the glass slipper. You don't. And and I married, my situation was so unique. I'm listening to all of you in that I felt like, and this is the one, and I know, Tiffany, you'll probably get to it, and I may be ahead of you. But what I'm saying is I didn't have that experience because I was so young when I began dating. And even though we spent maybe a year apart, he was in California in college, I tried to follow him out there, and the earthquake just wouldn't have it. So I came back here to Texas, where I could feel the ground underneath my feet, and began a whole life, began working and building things for myself. But he moves back, and we're in Christ now. I came to Christ, and he did 2 weeks after I did, and that's another story in and of itself. But there was never, I remember one day standing in my daughter's bedroom, because she gets her little IKEA stuff, and we were putting her room together, and I said, I have never had my own bedroom. Because when I was in my mother's house, I shared it with my sister. When I was in my father's house, I shared with my sister. When I was in my own house,
you was married.
It was like I felt grief. I really felt grief, because I felt like that was a part of my life. I never went off I did go off to college, but I stayed with family. But it wasn't the same as having, now I had my own apartment at 18. We didn't live together. I had my own apartment. So he would come here and I would go there, but I had my own apartment. But it was an efficiency. So it was one large room. I still didn't have a bedroom, if you know what I'm saying. I had a sectional. And the kitchen was over there. So but like watching her put things on her wall and installing, mounting her television and her bed and all her bedding and all the little cute girly stuff, and seeing her move from her parents' house to wherever she goes from here. But I felt like I went from teen to marriage, pretty much. So but that the adjustments that have been made along the way, because there was a BC that was before Christ.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
there was marriage in Christ.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different dynamics. And if you are not the kind of person that's willing to grow and mature and update, we got to update. Just like your computer said, your phone, hey, it's time for an update. You better update and check in with each other. What installs do we need to do? What do I need to get rid of? Do I need to delete something? Do I need to add? Where are we at this stage of our marriage? So
that's very important, what you said. And I want to add to that, as far as the biggest misconception about marriage, is that I don't think a lot of people realize how much your spouse mirrors back to you what's in your heart. There's any trauma, any unforgiveness, and you're thinking it's the other person, and you need to get yourself together. No. And 9 times out of 10, I'm just even gonna say 10 times out of 10, God is gonna tell you, no, go look at you. Go look at you. And so
I know in my prayer closet, it's been all about me.
That's right.
I came in here to talk to you about this man. Yep. Why are we doing all of this?
Right.
But I tell you, I heard Pastor Tim Ross the other day, and he shared something that was so powerful. And he was saying how your wife or your spouse is a presentation of you. He gives you back to you. So you're looking at you. And when you said that about a mirror reflection, that just really jumped in my head, because I'm like, man, if that ain't never the truth, you're arguing with the things that you're seeing, that's you. And this person is doing nothing but revealing or magnifying who you are and where your deficiencies are and what you need to work on. And she's not doing it to hurt you, or he's not doing it to hurt you. They're doing it to say, hey, this is broken. We can fix it together, and if you're not, again, that humility, if you're not courageous enough to own it and say, you know what, I never saw that. I never realized I was projecting this on you. But that's who we are to each other. The two became one. And then we start looking at each other. It's like, I don't like that. Well, you don't like you. The problem is you.
Yeah, absolutely. Veronica, so what was the biggest challenge that you had to work through in your marriage, and how did you work through it?
The biggest challenge, something, I guess this may go along with communication, but just again, how I was raised, how my husband was raised. I learned, of course, everybody have learned behaviors and different things. And so, looking at some of the things that me and my husband was struggling with, a big thing, and Joe mentioned it earlier about love language. My love language is words of affirmation. Yes. Okay. And this is probably the biggest thing for me in my marriage. Now, if you ask my husband, that won't be the biggest thing for him. Okay.
Right.
So but he is a straightforward, kind of cut and dry person. And that's his personality. And so, but that straightforward, or that, to me, that come off as a little negative to me, okay? And I'm not talking about, because earlier I talked about having the courage to say, to speak your truth and stuff like that. So I like that. But
it's hearing it back.
We were just talking about it. Okay, so, but when he would say things, and it just, I didn't grow up around that. To me, it was a little bit negative. When I look at his family and different things, that's just how they roll. That's how they roll. That's how they speak. But that was like a little
culture
needle
shock.
Or something. Yeah, it was a little needle for me, because it's gonna be of great benefit for you to affirm me, since my love language is words of affirmation. But guess what? If you don't say nothing, I can probably deal with that. But when I feel like you done went a little See, we got here, then we got the affirmation. So you got, if you're not affirming, that's strike one. Okay, you still
Right.
good. If you not just, you just not quiet. Okay, so you ain't, because he ain't gonna be quiet. Okay, so that means he's a little below. So that was always a big problem for me. You know, as Laval and Tiffany know, y'all know I will correct people, but I like to affirm people. I like to encourage people.
So
I
I'm
like
gonna build you up too.
yeah. But, and there's a way, and I just feel like, well, he just ain't doing it in the way that he can benefit the most. See, I like, let me try to deal with him in the way that works for him so I can benefit and so everybody can benefit. So it's been taking him a while to, but he's there now though. He's there now. It's been taking him a while. I said, listen, one time he was walking out of the room. We was talking. He was walking out the room. I said, listen, when you see this face right here, just when you see this face right here, think about affirming. I need to affirm. Veronica, affirm. Veronica, affirm. Veronica, affirm. Okay. I said you will be able to get anything, do anything if you affirm. When you see your
This is my language, dude.
affirming. And so, but naturally, he don't affirm. Naturally, it's just I'm right here. This, you know how people say I'm a realist.
Right.
Real according to you, but not according to me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So now we at a really good place. But that was my main challenge in the marriage. That will not be if he was sitting right here. He's at work now, but if he was sitting here, if he was sitting
he that short?
no,
just
I
kidding.
wouldn't get the person.
Put a hand up here.
Yeah, like right here. Okay, if he was sitting here, he'll say something totally different. But of course, that's my love language. His love language is what is it? Acts of service.
Yeah.
It was acts of service, and I'm so we are the complete opposite
Right.
of each other love language. So acts of service. I grew up with a single mom. She like, I'm gonna clean up when I get ready because I ain't got the answer to nobody. Okay. And I tried to take on that same mindset, you know, and so I'm like, that don't work with Derek.
No.
None of that work. None of that work. So we was like this with each other.
Bumping heads, yeah.
Yeah. So love language has been the biggest challenge.
It's real. Yep. Learn that language, boy, I tell you. What's the Duolingo? You need to download the Duolingo so you can learn that language quickly.
Laval, what was yours? What was your biggest challenge that you had to overcome in your marriage, and how did you work through it?
Let's see. I would agree with both ladies. Learning each other's love language. My husband and I are completely opposite. My husband is on top of the roof with personality. And I'm real mellow.
True.
So I feel like at the end of the day, we both taught each other, as far as those attributes, we've brought each other to kind of like a medium, because I had to learn how to enjoy life, be excited.
Yes.
And I got that from him. And when things need to be calm, I'm like, okay, honey, calm down.
Yes.
You know? And we got that, but those acts of service kind of, you know, I tell my husband this all the time. He loves to clean up. Mm-hmm. And that's a plus. Don't get me wrong. That is a plus. That is my husband's natural.
What's the problem?
That is his natural tendency. And I think, you know, my love language is acts of service. But for him, that acts of service doesn't count because he's doing that for himself. An act of service for me is where he sacrifices and does something that I enjoy.
Okay.
Like he's a sports fan, I am not. So I'll give you an example. For me, I'm not a sports fan, but because I want to show him that I want to spend time with him and something that he enjoys, I will sit down and I will watch the game with him, or I will make sure that his game, he has plenty of food to eat and he's able to have a good time and yell across, you know, all over the house and run out the front door and all of that. And I sacrificed that. And I even learned to listen to the commentation. Like, I'm not even into sports, but one day I knew something about one of the players.
Yeah.
And I said, well, honey, did you know that so-and-so got signed here or knew how to do something? And he was like, what? You knew that? He was like, high five.
Yes.
And so it's like in marriage, you all are going to be different, but you have to sacrifice for each other.
Yes.
And speak that language of love. And that's where those love languages begin to really move in your marriage, is because each person has to sacrifice something.
Absolutely.
That is not their normal nature. But when at the end of the day, one of the things I say is that, okay, if you want the prize, you got to sacrifice to get the prize. And so I was like, he sacrificed. If I sacrifice for him, he will sacrifice for me. And in the moment, it doesn't seem fair.
Right.
But if you want the prize, you will work
Right.
on sacrificing what you need to at that time. And you will actually begin to enjoy it because you sacrifice, and God knows, okay, you're trying to please your mate. So it's that give and take,
There's
you
nothing
give for
wrong
him.
with that. That's
You give for him, he gives for you, and then you both learn that, she's doing this and she doesn't even want to do it, or he's doing this and he doesn't really want to do it, but he's doing it for me.
For me, yes.
And that's where the difference comes in, is that they see the sacrifice that you've made because they know you better than anyone else knows you.
True.
And they know that it was a sacrifice. So in that, I said, I've learned to do that over the course of time.
That's awesome.
Great. That's awesome. Now, given what you all know now about marriage, what is an advice that you would go back and tell yourself before you got married? Veronica.
What would I tell myself before I got married? I would probably say, well, I would want to know more about the family of the potential husband.
Wow.
I would really want to know more about his mom, his siblings, the close family.
Yeah.
I would want to know if he's close with his family, because some people have family they ain't talked to in years, and I need to know why you haven't talked to him in years. But I would want to know how he really, I need to be around long enough to see how he really interact with his family, his mother, his siblings, and all that. Now, at that time, my mom had never gotten married. I was like the first person. My mom raised 3 kids, and I was the first of her children to get married. And I didn't really see many marriages around me. So with that being said, at 25, I didn't know how important that was, but it's important to me now. So those of you that are listening, if you want to take a little bit of my advice, learn more, because you in your 20s too, you just kind of going, you trying to figure everything, you try to figure life out, okay? So you don't really think of a lot of stuff that we talk about. You don't really think about all that in your 20s or when you 19 and stuff. So we just trying to give y'all a head start, trying to give y'all a head start. So I would say, sis, our brother, whoever watching, listen, find out a little bit more about his mom. I want you to, when they family reunions, gathering, matter of fact, you can put a gathering together.
Yes.
Invite your mama over, invite your brother, your sister. I need you to invite all these people over because I need to meet them, because I need to see their interaction. I need to see how well you and your mom get along. I need to see the communication. I need to see all that. So, my kids say, people don't just go together like that. You can put people in the friend zone. So I'm gonna need you to be in the friend zone till I figure out a few things about your family. So that'll be my answer.
Important things to know. That's right. That's right.
That's it.
Joe?
Ask that question again.
Yes. So what was given what you know now about marriage, what would you go back and tell yourself before you got married? Honestly,
Finances. finances, I would be a better steward of my finances. It hasn't been a problem, so to speak. You know, we work on everything together because I'm practically married to an accountant. But but I'm married to a man who he's a budget analyst. I'm married to a man who wants to see, it's like, show me the money. And I wasn't good at showing the money. I was good at spending the money. I wasn't good at showing what I was spending it on. And then I would get mad when it wasn't there, when I really had a need, you know. And so just if I could talk to my younger self, I saw an episode the other night on Blackish, and I love Diane, that little child. I just like, if I had her brains at her age, you know, when I was that age. But she was talking with, you know, the character Rainbow, her mom, and she's doing an investment portfolio. So she buys this expensive Beyonce caricature doll, and her mom's like, you're wasting your allowance, and that's not what, you know, that money's for. She's like, well, it's my money, you know, it's my allowance. And she's like, yes, but I want you to, but she didn't realize that this little girl took the signature doll and turned the doll for a profit and got back like 10 times what the doll was worth, and then invested in real estate property in South Carolina. And I'm like, that child, that's what I should have known then. So honestly, to be better about finances, you know, building towards, because when you're 20s, when you're in your 20s, you're gonna live forever. you never see, you know, you wake up and there's a 5 in front of your age, and you're like, what? When did that happen?
Yes.
When did that happen? Yeah, I want to hit the screen and do this, you know, and those little TikTok thing, you know, but it's like, it just happens, and you look up, and now you're estate planning, and you're talking about, you know, what you're leaving to your children and their college life and everything. And that's real talk. And so I say, you know, just while you're young and while you're getting started, make those important decisions early. That's what I'm teaching my kids now. I didn't even know who FICO was. I was really mad that he was all in my business and telling me what car I could have and what house I could live in. I'm like, that's not your decision to make, but yes, it was. FICO said, oh, you can't have that right now. And I was like, no, I don't have to get your permission. You know, but really, you know, understanding kingdom wise, we live on a completely different system. I'm not bound by that, but that has been the beauty of how we have sustained, is having God has to be in it. Because I'm telling you, when people say you look at your paycheck and you don't know how, in COVID, in the middle of a pandemic, I have financially been a better steward than when I was getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. That's a God thing. Like, you mean to tell me I got money in the bank and I have, you know, passive income, and it's like, really, God? I should have listened to you a long time ago. So. So, you know, just really being real about the money, and don't let nobody lie to you. More divorces occur because of lies told or fights over finances. And I've been there. Laval, I know you said y'all hadn't, you know, I'm gonna be real about it. Nobody's put hands on each other, but I'm telling you that the most heated fellowship ever in the course of this marriage has been over money. Yeah. And been over the kids. Sometimes it was because I'm like, beat them, you need to beat them. It's like, oh Lord, don't kill them, boy, you know, and I'm trying to pull them off. But it hadn't been, kids are pretty good. You know, but that money thing, and then just realizing that I wasn't agreeing with, I wasn't submitting to the mission, you know. Yeah. I had to own it. It is what it is, you know. It's gonna make us all come up.
Yeah. Laval?
I would tell women to
yourself. No, tell yourself. What would you tell yourself?
That's what I'm about to say.
Okay.
It's for me and all y'all.
as Joe was saying, you know, that fantasy life that, you know, the man's gonna come take you and wine and dine you, and you're gonna have the white picket fence and the dog and all that. That may come, but the one thing that I would tell myself, if I could start all over, is to explore me. As Joe was like saying before, if you start dating at such a young age, you have not had time to explore who you are, what you like, dream about who you can become and who God has called you to be. And you don't start exercising that early, like keeping yourself busy so that you won't put yourself in negative, situations that you may, I want to say regret
Right.
later. But you have to give yourself time to grow and to mature. And even if you're 25, 30 years old, if you did not start that process at a young age, you still have plenty of maturity to go, to grow in. And so one thing that I saw myself doing is that I tried to marry before I was ready, before I knew who I was, before I knew what I wanted. To even see who I was becoming. I was in a relationship before I even saw any of that. And so you end up marrying or being with a person that is not for who God is making you to become. Absolutely. So then when you're in a relationship or you marry someone and you are not mature to that level, then you're like, okay, what did I do? And now you feel yourself stuck where you can't continue to grow because that person is keeping you at that place where they want you because you haven't matured into who God is calling you to be. So I would tell myself, allow yourself to live life, enjoy life, find out who you are, what you want to do. Do you want children? Allow God to give you those children in his timing, and so don't put yourself in situations that can alter your life if it doesn't have to, by making wise decisions, putting yourself, as Joe was saying earlier, around women that can give you good, sound advice. Yes, you're going to make your own decision, but when you put yourself in wise counsel, you will make better decisions.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for me, I want to add to that and say, for me personally, I would tell myself, watch how he interacts with the opposite sex. Yeah. And how does he handle conflict? What's his temperament like? Because if a man,
that's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah. And watching a man interact with women of the opposite sex is so key because it says how he's going to continue to interact with them even when he gets married. So if he doesn't have any boundaries in place, even as a single man, and then you come into the fold, and then these female friends are looking at you like, who are you? And we used to do this, and if there was no boundaries in place, that could just get very messy. And I'm saying that because I've gone through that. Wow. On several occasions in several different relationships. And so for me, that's important even to just know how does he handle, interacting with women, and how do the women interact with him? That says a lot too of what's going on behind closed doors, because they can get in front of you and paint this picture. How does the both of them interact with each other? And then, like I said, with the temperament, that's key too, because how does he act when he gets very upset about things? Like, you don't want to be with someone that's going to punch a hole in the wall, or he kicking the trash can and everything, and you just like, oh, he's just upset. Oh no.
Or you can't say, oh, he loves me. He won't do that to me.
No, run.
I said the Tina story. I don't know what channel it was on. We were watching last night, and just watching all the abuse this woman went through. All the while singing and dancing and building an international career, and just sad to see that even at, I think she's like 80, 81, still looks fabulous. But even at the end of her life, that the questions that she is still being asked today, after the book, after the Broadway, after the movie with Angela Bassett, every time she sits down for an interview, people ask her about the abuse she suffered, about her relationship with her, her and Ike. And she got to the place where, and it was really sad to see. And she said, oh, so we're going to talk about this again. That she could never, as much as she tried to tell the story so she wouldn't have to keep telling the story, it just became her identity, so to speak. You know, they were still calling Ike and Tina, you know, and she was like, it's just Tina. You know, and why I'm saying that is I see so many women because I grew up like you, Veronica, single mom, and I watched my mom live a life of abuse in trying to please and appease the men in her life and trying to accommodate everybody but herself, and literally watch this woman work herself not only into illnesses but into an early grave. I felt like, you know, and watched how she didn't have self-worth because her value was in whatever the men in her life told her about herself. And one of the most the things that I found, it was so interesting. She lived with me for a little while, me and my husband, when my oldest son was a baby. And in all of the years of her packing up and moving from place to place and everything, and she had just a few things. And I'm cleaning the hallway and I was opening the closet to vacuum, and that's where some of her storage was, some of her. She still had the divorce decree from when her and my father divorced when I was 2 years old. And so at this time, I was about 27, 28. Of all the baby pictures and all the important documents, birth certificates and everything that she had lost along the way, she still had the divorce decree from the marriage to my father. And I just thought how hurtful that was. That was an abusive relationship, but that was her husband, and you know, there was infidelity and stuff. And then watching the men in her life, and I don't know, I remember being 10 years old, and because of something I saw, you know, just around the house and in the community, I remember telling myself, I will never be with a man that put his hands on me. I will never be with a man. I was making decisions at 10 about what I would not tolerate in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I don't know, so a lot of people talk about, you know, manifesting different things. There wasn't a vision board or anything. It was me saying that whatever happens in my life, I know I don't want that. I know that I'm worth more than that. I know that God has to have something better for me than that. And if I willed it, or if it was just God's ordained will for my life is nothing like what I saw growing up as a child. That temperament in your husband is everything. The way he interacts with different women is everything. And you're wise to watch those kind of things. Y'all know my husband. Well, you know, Veronica, you haven't met, but Laval, and he is everybody's big brother.
Yeah.
You will be immediately with his body language and his conversation will let you know you're friend zoned.
Yes.
He will give you the elder bishop and the side hug, and because everything, his body language keeps him out of that place, because all I've seen from him, and if I want to say his strong suit, I know love languages and everything, but loyalty. My husband is loyal. I won't even say, people say loyal to a fault. Loyal. If he is on your team, you got a teammate. I mean, the man will have to crumple up in a ball. But if he says, I am with you, he is. And that's something that he's proven to me over the years. So when I have situations, if someone was to ever come to me and say, you know what, your husband did X, Y, Z, I'm just like, oh.
Right.
That is just one of a lot of things that no one can tell me about my husband. And I don't say that braggadociously. I say that because we know each other. We don't just know each other intimately in that way, but we know each other. He knows what I will and won't tolerate, and I know and we talk about it. We talk about it. You know, what did you think about that? How did you feel? I had somebody plant a kiss on my forehead. Y'all know how intimate that I turned around, and this brother in the service of the Lord planted a kiss on my forehead. You know, I don't know what he was thinking. He just got excited, or the spirit moved, and Elder Joe, and I was like, you know, and I was so shocked. And then, you know, of course, this eye was checking for my husband and where he was in my peripheral, and he saw it, but he kept shaking hands and kissing babies Well, we talked about it when we got in the car. And I'm just like, I'm like, oh God, I didn't even see that. And he knew, babe, there was nothing in me that signaled that, so for whatever weirdness that was, we talk about that. And we talk about it. We talk about how we interact with other couples and other people. So, don't let your good be evil spoken of.
Yes.
Get you beat down. Let me say in layman's terms.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, I have certainly enjoyed this conversation tonight. It has been so enriching and enlightening. And I thank y'all for sharing and dropping. I knew y'all were going to drop steak bites tonight. I knew we was going to have to go to dinner. We was cutting up and biting some,
I love
Thank y'all so much. I'm like, my heart is so full. Before we close tonight, can you ladies share with the audience how they can stay connected with you on social media, what you're doing and all of that good jazz? Veronica?
Okay, I am Veronica Neal on Facebook, Veronica Neal on Instagram. Of course, as Tiffany mentioned at the beginning, Conversations with My Friend podcast, that's on Facebook. And you can also go to purposefulwomen.org. That is my website. Thank you.
Who's next? Laval?
I am on Laval Ezel on Facebook, Instagram, and also for Striving in Sisterhood, you can find us under Striving in Sisterhood on Facebook and Instagram. And if you are wanting to learn more about Striving in Sisterhood, you can join our private group. It's called Striving in Sisterhood Inspiration. So you come to the private group and I will welcome you, and you will be able to hear videos probably on Mondays of how you can continually stretch yourself and strive for sisterhood every day. So look forward to you guys joining us.
And I am Jo Patterson. I am the CEO and founder of Sarah's Girls, and that's my ministry organization as well as Epic Domain. But for Sarah's Girls, under The Real Sarah's Girls, the real _ Sarah's Girls on Instagram, Epic Domain on Instagram, as well as my new podcast on Patreon, Speak on That with Jo Pat, JOPATT on Instagram, and some other streams coming your way. But if you need to find me quickly, see Tiffany.
And again, I am your host and founder of Silhouette of a Queen. I'm Tiffany Devon, and I am a certified coach and wardrobe stylist. Again, I style leaders and influencers in fearless fashions, and you can connect with me right here where we are on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter and YouTube as well. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure speaking with you all tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening in. And don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and share this yummy goodness with somebody else and bless it to someone else. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight, and we will see you next time.
Good night.